like Friedrich's like Wonder Above the Sea. Wonder.
Murdoch, do you know where the rest of your team
We need
this game,
nameplate.
which will be the playoff between for 5th and 6th
It's alright.
place.
They already know who you are.
We've done a buzzer check already. I have St. Mark's on my left. I have Churchill on my right. I'm Adam. I'll be moderating this game.
I understand.
Mike, I'm streaming, not really scorekeeping.
I will also be scorekeeping, but if anyone else in the room is keeping score as well, that will be greatly appreciated. In that case, I think we can get started. Best of luck to both teams. Once again, here we go. This is the tiebreaker of round, where are we at? 18, 19, toss-up 1. This symphony's finale ends as the orchestra plays a modal variation of the plagal cadence, followed by an E major Picardy third. This symphony begins with the cellos playing a slow double pianissimo, E, D, short E, down to B, in 4/8 time. The symphony's Allegro con fuoco finale opens with the slurred string figure B, C, followed by
Dvorak's Ninth Symphony.
that is 10 bonus.
I just listened to it.
Amateur ornithologist David Lack preempted a classic study on these animals by 2 decades when he discovered that robins will attack a headless red doll that looks nothing like a bird. For 10 points each, name this fish that Nico Tinbergen was studying when he discovered fixed action patterns.
Like fish, like stickleback. Yeah, stickleback.
Yes, the enormous diversity among sticklebacks also makes them ideal models for this process, epitomized by Darwin's finches, by which species rapidly evolve from a common ancestor to occupy available niches.
I don't know if they want natural selection. I think they want natural selection.
This is adaptive radiation.
Oh, yeah, wait, no.
Sticklebacks and S. solidus are also popular organisms to study coevolution, since they engage in this type of symbiotic relationship in which one species benefits and the other is harmed. 20.
Come on, guys.
Toss-up 2. An iconic photo from this city depicts a tree jutting out of John Schultz's house. David McCullough's first book includes a section on a fire at the stone bridge over the Conemaugh River in this city. It's not Pittsburgh, but the city's Cambria Iron Company was once the biggest steel producer in the U.S. People in this city received donations from Henry Clay Frick after Frick's South Fork Fishing and Hunting Club was absolved of responsibility for their suffering. Clara Barton spent 5 months in this city in one of the first American Red Cross relief efforts, following an 1889 disaster that also wiped out all the structures in the town of Mineral Point. For 10 points, name is Pennsylvania City that was...
Johnstown.
10.
Yeah.
Nice.
Bonus. Answer the following about colorfully titled books for 10 points each. Many quotations by this Chinese leader were included in the Little Red Book, which is sometimes cited as the most printed book of all time. This author inserted himself as a character into his novel The Black Book, a narrative trick he reused in a 2002 novel in which the poet Ka meets the revolutionary Blue amidst a spate of suicides following a headscarf ban. Yes. This Korean author published The White Book not long after the success of the English translation of her novel The Vegetarian, in which a graphic designer refuses to eat meat and begins to perceive herself as a tree.
I actually don't remember what her name is. I think the author. Min?
Answer, please.
Min.
It's Hong Kong. You get 20. Toss-up 3. A category for which these structures are broken was added to a morphological system by Gerard de Vaucouleurs. These structures rotate with a quantity denoted capital omega sub p called pattern speed. Though it was later applied to planetary rings, the winding problem of the persistence of these structures motivated the development of Lin-Shu density wave theory. These structures are the defining features of members of both right branches of the Hubble tuning fork. Orion...
Spiral.
Prompt.
Spiral galaxies.
I will prompt you again.
Bar spiral galaxies.
No.
Wait, what?
Orion lends its name to one of these structures that contains the Earth. These structures are directed outward from a central bulge and may be connected by a bar. For 10 points, name these spoke-like structures that distinguish spiral galaxies from elliptical galaxies.
Spiral arms.
That's right. Bonus. In this year, Allied forces broke through the Hindenburg Line during the 100 Days Offensive, reversing the gains Germany had made in the spring. For 10 points each, name this year in which German defeats led to the armistice that brought an end to World War I.
1918.
Yes. Repeated defeats and 1 hour of sleep each night caused this German general to suffer nervous breakdowns in 1918. He sidelined his superior von Hindenburg to plan the Pyrrhic Spring Offensive.
Ludendorff.
Yes. Ludendorff described the first day of this battle as the Black Day of the German army, after 500 tanks broke through German lines. It was the first battle of the 100 Days Offensive.
The say the Ardennes Offensive.
Defer.
Or Ardennes Offensive.
It's Emia. You get 20. Toss-up 4. In a story by this author, the potentially lesbian Adrienne drops flowers on a convent's portico, which are swept away after she is barred from it. In a story by this author of Lilacs, a character disappeared among the reeds and willows after being dismissed by her husband, who almost burns a letter that describes how he will never know his mother. This author created a woman who whispers body and soul free before dying.
Chopin.
Power.
Nice.
Bonus. This novel's creator vehemently insisted that it was just a story about rabbits and not an anti-war allegory. For 10 points each, name this novel in which Hazel leads Fiver and Blackberry as they flee humans' destruction of the Sandalford Warren.
Watership Down.
The narrator meets the hyper-rational horses Hoonums and the savage Yahoos in this author's novel, Gulliver's Travels.
Swift.
Yes, an author from this country, No Violet Bulawayo, was inspired by Animal Farm to describe the ousting of the old horse in a 2022 novel. That book, Glory, allegorizes a 2017 coup in this home country of Tsitsi Dangaremga.
2017 coups.
Maybe that's Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
Answer, please.
Zimbabwe.
30.
Nice.
Good job, man.
Toss-up 5. An artist claimed that with one of these objects, I want to astonish Paris, with a painting of them spread out over a table that was exhibited by Ambroise Vallard. A painting of one of these objects with the phrase au revoir written on it was owned by Paul McCartney and inspired a corporate logo. One of these objects takes up the entirety of a room in the painting The Listening Room. A painting titled after these objects has an impossible table with no right angles, a rare example of its artist's signature, and a tilted wine bottle. Paul Cézanne painted a still life depicting a basket.
Yeah, fruits.
Prompt.
Apples.
Yeah, that's 10.
Nice. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bonus. Roman Abramovich used a British court to sue Catherine Belton over allegations in Belton's 2020 book about this leader's people. For 10 points each, name this leader who launched an invasion of Ukraine in 2022.
Vladimir Putin.
Yes. Yevgeny Prigozhin, the leader of this organization, has benefited from an exception in the Sanctions and Anti-Money Laundering Act for paying for legal fees. This Russian mercenary group used human waves of prisoners in their attack on the Ukrainian city of Bakhmut.
Wagner.
Yes. The shell company Jusan Technologies, funded by this man, has also used UK courts to sue the group Open Democracy. After almost 30 years in power, this man handed the presidency to Kassym-Jomart Tokayev in 2019.
Is it the Kazakh?
Go with it.
Was it?
Or is it Nazarbayev, right?
Yeah,
Answer, please.
Nazarbayev.
Say again.
Nazarbayev? That's what-
Yeah,
Oh,
30.
wow.
Nice.
Toss-up 6. This author described a nuclear test as the final act of betrayal by a ruling class that has failed its people in the essay The End of Imagination. In a novel by this author, the security guard Saddam Hussein moves into a graveyard with an intersex person. In a novel by this author, 6 policemen create a haunting smell of old roses when they beat up a man in the History House. Amu is ostracized for her affair with Velutha in a novel by this author, in which a boy is molested at a screening of this...
Roy.
10.
Nice.
Bonus. Description acceptable. Assuming ideal conditions and this condition, a projectile launched at angle theta achieves a range of velocity squared times the sine of 2 theta over little g. For 10 points each, describe this condition that causes a term in the formula for the range of a projectile to vanish, resulting in the simplified term sine of 2 theta.
No air resistance.
Yeah, sure. No air resistance.
It's y naught equals 0
Oh.
starting from the ground. Under non-ideal conditions, the range is reduced by this force that arises due to air resistance and opposes the motion of objects in a fluid.
Oh,
Drag.
Yes, the projectile spins after launch, causing this effect named for a German physicist that often appears in sports. In this effect, a rotating projectile generates lift, disrupting its trajectory.
The Veritasium, do you remember?
No.
The basketball off the dam.
Motion.
Yeah.
Answer, please.
No.
It's the Magnus effect. You get 10.
Yeah.
Toss up 7. The underwater speed of sound was first measured in this body of water. The castle from 1989's Little Mermaid was inspired by an island on this body of water. The longest non-stop rowing regatta in the world.
English Channel?
Yeah.
No. is on this body of water and references its Roman name of Lacus Lemanus. A city on this body of water hosts the second largest jazz festival in the world after Montreal, and was the site of a casino fire that inspired Deep Purple's song Smoke on the Water. The Lavaux vineyards overlook this body of water from Vaux. Mont Blanc is visible from cities on this body of water like Montreux. The department of Haute-Savoie shares this body of water with 3 cantons, including its namesake. For 10 points, name its large lake between France and Switzerland.
Just Geneva.
Yes. Bonus. Description acceptable. The queens of Balubedu, the inspiration for H. Rider Haggard's Ayesha, are said to have the hereditary ability to perform this task. For 10 points each, name this task, accomplished by the Maya by lowering boys into a hole as they make frog noises. A tool used for this task is often made from a hollow cactus.
It's like getting
Bird calls? Wait, what?
Is it
Answer, please.
Bird calls.
It's bringing rain.
Oh.
In a story from this country, an owl got the frog Tiddalik to laugh and released the water he drank. This country's Aboriginal stories also include the water-bringing rainbow serpent and the dream time.
Australia.
Yes. In times of drought in India, frog weddings may be held to appease this god, who kills the serpent Vritra with the Vajra, a thunderbolt-like weapon.
It's Indra, right?
Yeah. Indra there.
20. Toss-up 8. Hyman's torch gets smoke in this woman's eyes during her wedding. A man atoning for his crime against this woman sacrifices 4 bulls, 4 heifers, and a calf, and sees bees rising from their corpses. This
Eurydice.
great buzz.
Yeah.
Power.
What is it?
Actually, Eurydice, wife of Orpheus.
Oh, okay.
I was thinking, I couldn't remember her name like first
Eurydice.
time,
Bonus, a voiceover in a film by this director accompanies a red and yellow light surrounded by darkness and asks, "Where were you when all the sons of God shouted for joy?" For 10 points each, name this director of The Tree of Life who used voiceover for narration in Days of Heaven and the multiple narrators in The Thin Red Line.
Terrence Malick.
Yes. This director himself narrates his film The Magnificent Ambersons. This director of a documentary on forgeries and hoaxes titled F for Fake also starred as Harry Lime in The Third Man.
Orson Welles.
Yes, this Orson Welles film uses voiceover through its News on the March newsreels narrated by the actor William Alland. The title character of this film drops a snow globe and says Rosebud as he dies.
Citizen Kane.
30.
Nice.
Terrence Malick was impressive.
Toss up 9. 2 answers required. Collisions of these 2 particles were detected by early bee factories like the Babar experiment. These 2 particles interact in Baba scattering. Blackett and Occhialini's discovery of one of these particles by observing its curving relative to the other was scooped by a scientist who observed their tracks from cosmic rays in a cloud chamber.
Electron, positron?
10.
Nice.
Electron light.
Electron, positron.
Oh, positron.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
Bonus. Affirming the consequent and denying the antecedent are common argument forms that do not possess this property. For 10 points each, name this property of an argument in which the conclusion is guaranteed to be true if all the premises are true.
What does this mean?
Answer, please. It's valid. Validity is a property of arguments in this type of reasoning, in which rules of logical consequence are used to arrive at conclusions. It is contrasted with induction.
Yeah, deductive.
Yes, this sort of statement will be true in every row of a truth table, regardless of truth value assignments. Ludwig Wittgenstein used "it is either raining or not raining" as an example of this sort of statement.
Binary, he says?
Answer-
Binary.
It's a tautological statement or a tautology. You get 10.
Sorry.
It's fine. I wouldn't have pulled that.
Toss up 10. The Brahimi report, issued in 2000, argued that people in this job should be ready to take action in as little as 30 days. Tom Karamans, a Dutch leader of people in this job, ignominiously trusted the VRS to carry out a bus transfer in July 1995. People in this job under Canada's...
UN peacekeepers.
That's power. Good buzz.
Wow, nice. Good buzz.
Bonus, Grace Thorpe provided an ambulance service for this event, which began to falter after Richard Oak's daughter Yvonne died from a fall. For 10 points each, name this 1969 event organized by Lynette Means and John Trudell, in which the Indians of all tribes partly swam to an island to reclaim it by discovery.
It's Alcatraz Island, so the occupation of Alcatraz.
Defer.
Occupation of Alcatraz Island.
Yes. The occupation was justified by an 1868 treaty named for this location that was the subject of a 1980 lawsuit over stolen tribal sovereignty. This Wyoming fort began as a junction for the Mormon and Oregon trails.
Fort Independent. Oh, Fort Laramie.
Answer, please.
Fort Laramie.
Yes. Thorpe also took part in the occupation of Fort Loudoun in this city. This city is named for a Suquamish chief and is home to the Space Needle.
Seattle.
30. And that's the half. I have a score of 150 for St. Mark's, 200 for Churchill.
Close.
Questions, comments, concerns from the first half? Subs?
Yep, we're subbing in.
Okay. Arnav, you want to test your buzzer really quick? Sure. All right. Good luck, both teams. You all set, Mike? All right. Here's toss-up 11. Hollis Scarborough developed a rope infographic for assessing this skill. Marie Clay's studies in New Zealand informed an ineffective 3-cueing approach to teaching this skill in the 1990s. Lucy Calkins' balanced approach to this skill includes a focus on memorizing Dolch lists. People who have not mastered this skill can struggle when Flesch-Kincaid scores are low. When teaching this skill, some scholars advocate building sight memory.
Reading.
10.
Nice.
Bonus. Using 2 photons for excitation improves the resolution of a fluorescence microscope because it suppresses this quantity. For 10 points each, analytical assays often report the ratio of signal to what measurement of an experiment's random background fluctuations?
Noise.
Yes, noise is reduced because the photons used for excitation are in this region of the electromagnetic spectrum, which has slightly less energy and a longer wavelength than the visible light that's emitted.
No, IR. UV. Wait, no. Is it UV? Am I wrong?
Answer, please.
Differ.
UV.
It's IR. No. Confocal microscopes instead reduce noise by shrinking this region of the sample that receives light. This region is bright or dark in the 2 main types of light microscopy.
It's the one at the bottom.
Answer, please.
Differ.
Plate.
Say it again.
Plate.
It's field. 10.
It's all right.
Toss-up 12. A disastrous land invasion of British India by these people was averted by the Palen plot. Baturin was sacked after a leader of these people switched sides to join Charles XII of Sweden at Poltava. Power, good buzz.
Nice.
Your bonus. In his multi-volume Histoire naturelle, Georges-Louis Leclerc, Comte de Buffon, advanced a theory of degeneracy for the animals of this place, arguing that they tended to be small and weak. For 10 points each, name this general place. Watercolors of the birds of this tidal place constitute the best-selling book by John James Audubon.
Should be America.
Yes.
Yeah.
This polymath used examples of mastodon bones found in North America to counter Buffon in his Notes on the State of Virginia.
I feel like it's Agassi. I don't know.
Okay, go.
Agassi.
It's Thomas Jefferson.
Oh.
This well-traveled naturalist once dined beneath Charles Wilson Peele's mastodon skeleton in Philadelphia. He also wrote the encyclopedic book Cosmos.
Wait.
Answer, please.
Say it. Williamson.
It's Alexander von Humboldt. You get 10.
Humboldt current.
Toss-up 13. An author is struck with inspiration for this novel while walking naked in the rain in a 2019 Jeanette Winterson book. In this novel, the protagonist's father derides the writings of Cornelius Agrippa as sad
Frankenstein.
power.
Nice.
This composer used quotes from Paul Laurence Dunbar as epigraphs for each movement of his first symphony. For 10 points each, name this composer, who was the first black composer to have a piece performed by a leading orchestra when the Rochester Philharmonic premiered his Afro-American Symphony in 1931.
I thought this would never come up.
Answer, please.
Banks.
It's William Still. The third movement of the Afro-American Symphony features offbeat chords from the tenor form of this instrument. Earl Scruggs pioneered a move away from the clawhammer technique of this stringed instrument.
Clawhammer, alto, string instrument.
Answer, please.
Cello.
Banjo. The first movement begins by quoting St. Louis Blues, which uses a classic blues progression that is this many bars long. This is the number of distinct tones in a chromatic scale.
7. Chromatic, 12.
Answer, please.
12.
10.
I'm sorry.
12 as in 10?
The answer is that you got 10 points.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, the
Sorry.
answer is 12.
Yeah, okay.
Chromatic. Jesus Christ.
Toss-up 14. A society celebrating this person's birthday ceremonially laid siege to the old city hall in Laredo, Texas. In 2019, the San Francisco Board of Education voted to cover up a Victor Arnautoff mural of this person standing near the dead body of a Native American. John Greenwood possibly made an object for this person sourced from enslaved people and hippopotamus items.
George Washington?
10.
Oh, yeah, it's
Statue of George Washington, yeah.
Oh, I've seen that.
Damn it, I should.
Bonus, a betting game that uses these objects involves either paying or taking chocolate coins known as gelt. For 10 points each, name these objects whose letters represent the expression Nes Gadol Hayasham, which translates to a great miracle happened there.
Dreidel.
Yeah. Dreidels are spun on this Jewish holiday in which 8 candles are lit to commemorate the Maccabees using a small pot of oil to keep a light aflame for 8 nights straight.
Hanukkah.
Yes. A description acceptable, a shin is replaced with a pay on one of the sides of the dreidels with this property to indicate that a miracle happened here instead of there.
Like 3 sides?
Top side.
Oh.
Defer.
Top.
It's a dreidel that was made in Israel. You get 20.
Oh.
Makes sense.
Toss-up 15. Hugo Winkler and Robert Morey misguidedly conflated Allah with a deity of this object, whose followers threw arrows at a statue that was destroyed after the Battle of Badr. This object names the 54th Surah, which describes people turning away from transient magic, possibly as a reference to the pre-Islamic god Hubal.
The Kaaba?
No. A Keralan king converted to Islam after witnessing a miracle in which Muhammad split this object in 2. The exact Gregorian date of Eid al-Fitr may not be known ahead of time because the holiday can only start after the first sighting of Hilal, a form of this object described in the Surah Al-Qamar. The Islamic calendar is based on this object. For 10 points, in this object that is depicted on the flags of Mauritania and Turkey alongside a star. Yes.
Okay, thank God. What do you think for a second?
The Ojibwe poet Jane Johnston was scarcely recognized for her translations that inspired this poem in Algic researches. For 10 points each, name is Henry Wadsworth Longfellow poem about the lover of Minnehaha that begins by the shores of Gitche Gumi.
Song of Hiawatha.
Yes. Hiawatha's disappearance into the sunset on a canoe after inviting Christ to his land was likely inspired by this epic poem. This epic poem was collected by Elias Lonrot.
Kalevala, yeah, you're right.
Yes. Longfellow also used this meter of the Kalevala for the Song of Hiawatha. This meter consists of long, short syllables over 4 feet.
Long, short.
Answer, please.
Iambic tetrameter.
Iambic tetrameter.
It's trochaic tetrameter. You get 20.
If I said trochee, would that
No, that wouldn't
You
mean
need,
right.
yeah, you need both parts. We'll do a 3/4 score check after toss-up 15. I have St. Mark's 260, Churchill 230.
Alright.
Agreed. All right.
Come on, guys.
Good luck, teams. 5 to go. Here's toss-up 16. An early copyright performance for an opera titled For This Profession had only one rehearsal that resulted in members of D'Oyly Carte's performing company carrying scripts on stage. An opera titled For This Profession borrowed a song from the unfinished opera Thespis that is sung by maidens climbing a rocky landscape. Members of this profession attempt to kidnap a group of women while singing, "Here's a first-rate opportunity," before being interrupted.
Pirates?
Power.
Yeah. Nice. Good.
Bonus, in 2022, amateur archaeologist Ben Bacon published a paper arguing that dots and lines in these artworks represented animal lifespans. For 10 points each, name these artworks that include finger flutings and blown paint outlines of hands. 4 French teenagers discovered some of these artworks in 1940.
Yeah,
Lusco.
Yeah,
Lusco cave paintings. What are they called?
No, it's just cave painting.
Bro. Why did you-
Bacon argued that the letter Y symbolized this activity for animals. This process became more difficult for human women as the pelvis changed shape to account for walking upright.
Birth.
Yes. The paper also studied this cave discovered by Marcelino Sanz de Sautuola's 8-year-old daughter, Maria. This cave in northern Spain was the first to which prehistoric artists were attributed.
You know this one here? Cave in Spain.
Answer, please.
Caves, I have-
It's Altamira. You get 10.
Okay.
Nice.
do you think we can protest the last one?
It's the same one?
The first.
The first part of the first part of the vote.
You're welcome to protest it.
Yeah, let's protest.
I can mark it for now, and we'll come back to it.
Actually, no, I don't know what the cave painting is called.
But it's fine.
Afterwards, I'm gonna.
So I will not protest it.
You will.
I will
protest
protest.
that.
Protest.
Yeah.
Okay, protest.
You will protest.
Noted.
Let's
Now
go.
we're even, right?
All right, potential plus 10 to Churchill. Toss up 17. Genomes of patients with this condition are collected in the Genie database and by an NIH-run genome atlas. Cell-free ctDNA is sequenced after a liquid biopsy to identify mutations that cause this condition. Alfred Knudsen popularized the idea that this condition is caused by a second hit that causes the alleles for RB to lose heterozygosity. This condition can be caused by hyperactivation of Ras kinase or by inactivation of the pro-apoptotic suppressor gene BRAC. 10.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Bonus, the firm Polymateria developed the first additive for inducing this process in polyolefin-based packaging. For 10 points each, name this microbe-facilitated process that involves deterioration, fragmentation, and assimilation steps.
Like the virus, the thing where the virus takes over the cell.
Answer, please.
Lytic cycle.
It's biodegradation. Biodegradation is the natural analog to this human-driven process that involves converting organic waste into fertilizer in a namesake pile or heap.
Compost.
Yes, composting can be accelerated by inducing this phenomenon in a namesake static pile. A garden tool with curved spikes facilitates this phenomenon in compacted lawns, helping to improve soil drainage.
Irrigation.
I thought it was raking.
Raking, I thought it was.
Raking.
It's aeration. You get 10.
Aeration.
Toss-up 18. Anthony van Dyck painted a Balapush robe from this empire depicting the Aryan king Hushang crushing a dragon. That robe was gifted to Robert Shirley. Sheikh Bahai designed a...
Safavid.
Great buzz.
Nice.
Power.
Nice. Good.
20. Bonus. In a 1928 essay, Sigmund Freud argued that an author's case of this medical condition was a reflection of severe hysteria over his father's death. For 10 points each, name this condition that causes Prince Mishkin to check into a Swiss clinic in Fyodor Dostoevsky's novel, The Idiot.
Epilepsy.
Direct.
Yes. A son of Dostoevsky with this first name, who died from a seizure, inspired him to create a character with this first name, who studies under Father Zosima in a monastery. Answer, please.
Mikhail?
It's Alyosha or Alexei.
Oh.
The epileptic Smerdyakov frames Dmitri for his father's murder in this Dostoevsky novel, titled for the relationship between characters like Alyosha and Ivan.
The brothers Karamazov.
20.
Can we get a score check?
Absolutely. I have 280 for St. Mark's, 300 for Winston Churchill, could earn an additional 10 points.
What
There are
is...
2 toss-ups to go.
Alright.
Let's get both.
Good luck. Here's toss-up 19. This work names a project that included Edwidge Danticat's One Thing, and that was published in the New York Times Magazine in 2020. This work's format and title inspired an unfinished 72-part work by Marguerite de Navarre. And a story originally from this work, a man tells his wife that their 2 children have been killed, then pretend...
Decameron.
Power.
Yes, sir. Big.
Bonus. Wealth from this industry funded the work of a sculptor with a mysterious degenerative disease, Aleijadão. For 10 points each, name this industry whose 18th century boom in Brazil inspired the name of a state that later dominated the café com leite period with Sao Paulo. The product of this industry names the law that abolished slavery in Brazil.
It's the
Gold.
Lei Áurea, so gold.
It's the golden law.
Gold.
Yes. Minas Gerais was one of the divisions of colonial Brazil named for this military title. In many languages, including English, this title is used for the commander of a ship.
Is cat?
Defer.
And-
Captain.
Say it again.
Captain.
Yeah.
Nice.
Formerly enslaved gold miners formed some of these communities of escaped slaves. One of these places in the captaincy of Pernambuco was called Palmares.
What is?
Just say
Answer, please.
Defer.
Cimarron.
No, they're quilombos. You get 20.
That's fine.
All right, so on the last toss-up, it's a 320, 300, plus 10 potentially. Toss-up 20. Most nanozymes react this compound with substrates like ABTS or TMB to trigger a color change. This compound is synthesized in a cycle that combines the elemental gases that reduce and oxidize a quinone. Luminol luminesces when it reacts with this compound. This eco-friendly reagent kicks off classroom demos of chemical clock reactions when its reactive atoms are reduced from a -1 to a -2 oxidation state. Ethers are stored in amber bottles to stop
Hydrogen peroxide.
10.
Oh my god.
Bonus. P.J. Clarke's book, The Sight of Death, chronicles his changing reaction to viewing two paintings by this artist over the course of several weeks of observation at the Getty Museum. For 10 points each, name this artist, whose 1633 Rape of the Sabine Woman features a red-cloaked Romulus standing on a platform on the left of the painting and gesturing to his men to begin the abduction.
Dude, I don't even know. Is it like Rubens or something? That seems way too early. Rubens.
It's Nicolas Poussin. Poussin's many paintings in this genre include one with the ashes of Phocion. Poussin often idealized his works in this genre, balancing the natural scene with column-like tall trees.
Bro, what? They're like pastoral.
Lands.
They're like
Answer, please.
Pastoral?
That's a landscape. A Poussin painting depicts a group of mythological figures performing the titled Dance to the Music of Time, which influenced the composition of this Fauvist leader's paintings of 5 nude figures dancing and holding hands.
Matisse.
Okay. Sure.
Matisse.
Yeah, 10. Final score, I have 340, St. Mark's 300, Churchill. Amazing game, guys. Good playing, and congratulations to both teams.
Dude, I forgot Hassan was a human being.